So I think the big grandiose project of our business and the movement we're leading is to bring humanity back into the machine. And we think there's just going to be so many opportunities to do that with the right partners and with the right leaders, kind of taking control of this capitalism 2.0. And we're just excited to be meeting people who are leading that charge.
You're listening to Relish This, the Purpose Marketing Podcast. Here's your host, Stu Swineford.
Hey everybody, Stu here. My guest today is Richie Kendall, and he is one of the co-founders of a really cool organization that has this tech stack for nonprofits and purpose-driven for-profits. It's called Goodworld, and you should definitely check it out. This episode is packed with some really cool information. Really, they built this program, this platform, to try and help nonprofits solve a couple of problems. One being juggling platforms and having so many tools that your costs are through the roof, and the time that it takes to learn and understand how to use all those tools is really high. And then also, your data in that situation is kind of all over the place. And so Goodworld really helps solve those problems. I think this is a great episode for both purpose-driven companies looking to expand their CSR, as well as nonprofits really looking to kind of bring all of those activities, events, social giving, rounding up, etc., under a single roof. This is the episode for you. I hope you really enjoy it. Richie's great. Here we go. Thanks for joining me today, Richie.
Thanks for having me, Stu.
Well, I'm really excited to hear more about what you are up to over there at Goodworld. It sounds like you have some really cool things going on with essentially a tech stack.
That's right. We fancy ourselves a social impact operating system, but we really got started as a app turned all-in-one fundraising tool set.
Oh, that's cool. So you work with nonprofits, and I know that you have a for-profit component to your systems as well. Why don't you kind of run us through kind of what your systems help people achieve?
Sure. And maybe I'll back up a little bit further and just give the wind up on how we kind of how I worked into this space and how we got to be doing what we're doing.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I grew up in Colorado as a studio artist, but got into digital pretty early on and was taking on some clients as early as high school, doing things like graphic design and identity work, and nonprofits became my first tranche of early partners. And I really found a heart for working with nonprofits because of all of the amazing stories and work that they were doing. As someone who lost my father to cancer very early, I kind of was confronted with those existential questions as young as 6 and 7 years old. So I had always pursued a life of purpose. And so when I started a film career after college, about 8 years after editing, writing, and producing, I had been moonlighting for these nonprofits doing websites and logos. And so after that career, I decided, why not just go all in on my nonprofit work and take everything I've learned and deliver that as a form of visual storytelling expertise, consulting, and built up a client list. And after about a year in with my new creative agency called Cheerful Inc., I bumped into a business partner, or someone who became my business partner, who had started the first technology that lets you round up the change on your purchases for charities. And we decided to go in together and build the company out as Cheerful Giving. And we white labeled that technology for the nonprofit sector and got some pretty great clients and brands going within the first 2 years. Ran a B2B kind of sales model, selling that technology into the nonprofit space. And by the end of 2019, we were a all-in-one fundraising solution for the nonprofit sector, and were acquired by Goodworld, which I am now the co-founder and chief experience officer of.
Oh, that's amazing. That's such an interesting story. I'm very sorry to hear that you lost your father at such a young age. I know that is hard enough when people are older, and so I want to acknowledge that. That must have been a real challenge.
The strength of my mother translated into strength of a family, and we pushed through, and I think we may all be all the better for it.
Well, I commend you for for taking that experience and turning it into something incredibly positive. And it sounds just really, really cool what you have built. Tell me a little bit about the types of nonprofits that your systems tend to work best for.
Yeah, a great question. We do work with nonprofits of all shapes and sizes, but the size kind of depends on the partnership in some ways. So for some of our larger nonprofit partners, like American Cancer Society, Amnesty International, YMCAs, things like that, it's usually more on the innovations side. So we not only were we the first mover in creating an app and platform that lets you round up the change on your purchases, but we were also the inventor of a tool called #donate. And that lets an individual on Facebook and Twitter simply type the word #donate into a comment field. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, that creates an instant donation. And it gets the nonprofit all of the donor information. And it's a very social kind of pile-on way to raise funds through your social channels. With our larger relationships, they're pretty focused on our more innovative tools that reach younger audiences. Mm-hmm. But with your smaller nonprofits and even your mid-market, we act as a multi-channel, all-in-one fundraising tool set that helps them consolidate their platforms, get all of their data into one place, streamline their operations, and run predictable and successful events, peer-to-peer fundraising, team fundraising, and more.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I know I'm on the board of a couple of nonprofits, and there's always a struggle with what tools to put into place and how to make sure that they're focused on those things that matter the most. And one of the things that I have seen happen is really this challenge with juggling so many different tools that not only do your costs go up quite significantly, but you also have to learn all of these different systems. And so I could see how having everything under one roof would be a real benefit to a lot of nonprofits out there.
That's right. And we feel for those nonprofits, especially in a changing landscape where not only is the technology accelerating at an extreme pace, but there's really just a glut of information out there and consultants and different tool sets. So sometimes it's hard to really see the forest through the trees. And I kind of liken it to, preparing like good meals. It's not that you don't have more than one tool or more than one ingredient. That's all very important. Mm-hmm. But having different platforms is like trying to cook out of multiple kitchens kind of simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so if we can get all of the right ingredients in the right kitchen with the right vision, then that's how you're going to most effectively scale your efforts.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I think that really paints a pretty compelling picture. If you were having to run, to prepare the spaghetti in one kitchen, and you were cooking the sauce in some completely different kitchen, that's not particularly efficient.
Yeah, that's right. And nonprofits, just like for-profit businesses, are really in the business of optimizing their business model.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when they need to stay focused on their mission and their programs, they can't be over exercising themselves on the technology and the management.
Absolutely. So I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about the hashtag donate platform or program. What's that? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of magic. Back in 2015, we created this concept. Actually, my business partner Dale Pfeiffer Pitt got to pitch Obama, who saw a huge opportunity in it right on the back of the ALS challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we saw this huge social media spike, but even considering how much money that campaign raised, it was something like less than 2% conversion on
Mm-hmm.
actual donations. That we saw that as an opportunity to make the social donations process as frictionless as possible. And it was right at kind of the beginning of the hashtag, trend.
Right.
And we realized, hey, if you could just create a hashtag that would enable someone to trigger a donation automatically, and they wouldn't have to complete some long online form, that this could be a huge save in the space. And so really it was sort of a layer that we were able to build on top of Facebook,
Okay.
as an app. And then we built it on top of Twitter as well in terms of retweets. So you
Okay.
type hashtag donate into Twitter, and that will just trigger an automatic response from the page that will provide a link to just add your card the first time.
Okay.
And once we have your card on file, then anytime you type hashtag donate moving forward, it will simply trigger a donation of the amount you include. So hashtag donate $100, that'll just draw right from your card.
Okay. So essentially, if I'm responding to, I'll pick one of my favorite charities, Save the Children's post on Facebook, for example, and I type hashtag donate $100, it just will kick off a donation of that amount to that organization.
That's correct. And you'll get a receipt right to your inbox. And Save the Children will not be subject to the data hole that Facebook currently is.
Right.
They'll actually get your information about your donation in real time.
That seems like a really cool system. And you said it works on Facebook and Twitter currently?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Since Instagram doesn't include any kind of linking in the platform, we have a swipe up on Instagram, but it's not quite as magical as the hashtag donate.
Okay. Well, regardless, that sounds really cool, and I think that a lot of people out there will be excited to learn more about that system. Do they need to sign up with you, the nonprofit themselves, or do they? It just works?
Yes, it's very easy. You just go to goodworldnow.com, you enroll with us, and with a couple clicks, have your Facebook and Twitter managers connect Facebook and Twitter, and now your social feeds have those magic powers.
Okay, that sounds really great. I would encourage people out there, particularly those that have a really solid follower base on those two platforms, to check that out. That seems amazing.
Yeah, I'll say that particularly animal rights, welfare shelters, rescues do particularly well, as you can imagine. Cute animal pictures go a long way. And then urgent relief efforts are also it's powerful how much funds you can raise with more emergent relief needs.
Absolutely. I could see during times of real crises that when people are paying particularly strong attention to what's going on out there, I could see that being a real benefit to be able to drive donations during those catastrophes or other types of urgent events.
Yeah, the cool thing is that influencers can also link their accounts to us.
Okay.
So you have some powerful voices in your corner having your influencers link up to us. Anyone can type hashtag or retweet hashtag donate to that influencer account, and it will go straight to your fund.
Okay, so if an influencer is connected with a particular charity,
Yep.
and they connect their account, then that charity is the beneficiary of the hashtag donate
That's it.
platform. Neat. I love it. That's some just really creative thinking, and I'm really excited to see where you go with that, because that's some good stuff.
Awesome.
So tell us all a little bit more about particularly some of the other technologies that are associated with the Goodworld platform.
Yeah, I think Roundups is a great place to start, because that's really where I got my start in the technology sector. I had been working with these nonprofits, really understanding some of their pain points operationally, was servicing them from a creative point of view. But what I was learning is that there was sort of this shift happening in the way that donors are engaging with philanthropy in general. And so I kind of got the bug for helping crack that nut in understanding how can we get younger people, millennials and Gen Z and younger, kind of involved in causes. And this was around the time that some of the investing and savings tools began to emerge. The Venmo peer-to-peer payment system, the Keep the Change Bank of America platform that lets you you round up your transactions for your savings accounts. And then you get this whole slew of Acorns for investing, Cash App, Robinhood, and now the whole ecosystem of investing tools out there. And we thought, hey, if you can do this for investing and savings, why not be able to support a cause you care about?
Right.
And so with a couple of sort of third parties, we use our payment processor Stripe for payment processing, and a platform called Plaid, which lets you link into over 9,600 financial institutions across the country. We were able to allow donors to track their everyday purchases and automatically round up every purchase they make for a charity. So Roundups is a mainstay for us, and we're seeing a lot of application, not only in the nonprofit sector, but also it's being used by businesses and their employees to create like give back cards and perks when you buy a lunch or when you're making a business transaction. And what's so powerful about this is it's a recurring revenue stream with a very low barrier to entry. If you just round up a little bit of change every day, it makes a big difference. Up to $20 a month in just spare change on your transactions. So 100 people rounding up their spare change, that's $20K a year in recurring revenue, and that's a game changer for small nonprofits.
Yeah, that is for sure. Do nonprofits who want to participate in the Roundups program, is that a separate sort of engagement? Does that come with all the other great tools that you provide with your services, or how do people get engaged with that platform and that program?
The beauty of our offering is we keep it very simple. We have the entire base platform completely free for nonprofits. No upfront costs. If you want to leverage any of our tools aside from a couple special tools and support levels, it's free. And all we do is we encourage all donors to tip when they're completing their transactions or signing up for recurring revenue.
Okay.
So you can, a nonprofit of any shape and size can get access to a full donor CRM, roundups, hashtag donate, events, auctions, peer-to-peer donations, and more, all for no upfront costs.
That's amazing. And then what's your revenue model? Do you take, is it purely tip based in terms of people who are engaging with that nonprofit?
Yep. So our free tier is fully tip driven.
Okay.
If if a nonprofit prefers to have what we call a fully branded platform that is more of an insulated database, not a part of our shared free ecosystem, then that starts at just $99 a month
Okay.
for the whole base of tools. Your giving pages, forms, spare change, and a few others.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I think people are fairly familiar with Smile, the Amazon program, which donates a percentage of each transaction. But rounding up is something that can actually be a lot more powerful in a lot of ways, just because of just how that works in both from a kind of a mentality standpoint, as well as a a lot of times it could be a bigger percentage than even what someone like Smile is doing. So it's really cool that you have that as an option for nonprofits for people to take advantage of.
Yeah, I appreciate you identifying that. We're less in the business of creating sort of frill streams. We're really putting cutting edge tools and technologies that are higher retention, higher engagement, and more usable in the hands of nonprofits as a part of their primary tool set, so that they're not just signing up for a million platforms and seeing kind of money just trickle in without
Mm-hmm.
the insights.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we want to get them a world-class stack so that they can truly build out an engaged community, rather than kind of stretching themselves thin across a whole variety of tools.
Right. What were the biggest challenges that you were seeing in the nonprofit space that your technology sought to fix when you first started building that out?
Yeah. Well, the first thing we identified when working with nonprofits is that they just have too many platforms and
Mm-hmm.
the data is all over the place. So the only way that you're going to be able to cultivate a community is by creating a cohesive message, communication strategy, and also offer a value proposition in a way that feels fresh, that communicates your mission, and is not just a sort of uh, beggar's errand. So by bringing all the tools into one place, we're truly empowering development directors, associate directors, and even database managers to identify highest value prospects and deliver triggered content at giving levels where people are kind of expecting it these days. And sort of, I'm not going to say gone are the days of direct mailing, or anything like that. Those are still quite strong uh, streams for that Gen X and older audience. But
Mm-hmm.
younger people don't respond to those channels, and so they're looking for mobile forward experiences, creative auctions and events, virtual experiences, and the like that are going to sort of meet them more where they are.
Well, I really love that you brought that up, because one of the things that we have seen is, and this comes through some research that an organization called Next After
Yeah, we love those
has
guys.
done. Tim was on the show. Gosh, I guess he was on the show back in February, maybe. I can't remember. But maybe we spoke in February, and then the show may have dropped here later in the year. But they do some really amazing things just with data. And one of the things that they have seen is, one of the reasons email continues to be so effective is because right now the main donor base continues to be really boomers. Those are people who are, they have some money. Many of them have some money laying around, or not just laying around, but they have money kind of earmarked for, donation based activities. They are, hoping to kind of make a difference as they are, entering retirement and kind of that phase of their lives. And having a platform and a program and a system in place that enables you to continue to do those activities and be, show up very strongly with that demographic, so Gen Xers, boomers, but also start to play really effectively in those younger generations, playgrounds, and where they show up is just a great way to diversify your income streams, I think. And so what it also, I believe, will do is help organizations who have a long-term plan and a long-term focus be able to engage with those younger audiences and keep them as donors and engaged volunteers, et cetera, for the rest of their lives, perhaps. So, recognizing that that the younger generations interact vastly differently, and coming up with a solution for that, I think, is such a strong play for many nonprofits.
That's right. And the train has left the station, and it's not that you can't catch it, but we truly are in a moment of a generational transformation in the way individuals interact with not only causes but technologies on the whole. So that window of capturing a younger audience is closing, and so if you don't make a move towards digital and really understanding the landscape there, then you run the risk of a cliff just 10 years away, where you won't have an audience that knows who you are and what you're doing.
Well, it's really interesting that you mentioned that too, because I know that you have a for-profit play as well for some of these companies out there, or many companies out there, who are starting to recognize that the younger generations are really wanting to engage with brands that have kind of more of a purpose-driven component to their businesses, and so tell us a little bit more about what Goodworld does for kind of the for-profit sector as well.
Yeah, we've seen all this transformation happening in the nonprofit industry, and it's somewhat a function of what is happening in the economy across the board.
Mm-hmm.
You have a younger generation entering the workforce. You have, in a way, brands becoming more human, and at the same time, humans becoming more like brands. Right? We're putting ourselves out there, this sort of Truman Show style on the internet, and we believe that brands who will pioneer the future are brands who invest in their workplace, in their culture, that do take a stand on important social issues, and that sort of command an audience and a consumer base that cares about making the world better in a sort of $1 or voting with their dollars, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we have always had it as a part of our vision to build an ecosystem that is three-pronged. One being the consumer or donor level pillar, one being the nonprofit sector that is making change happen at scale in impact areas that affect our daily lives. And then, of course, you have this brand or companies pillar. And when you bring those three pieces together, it's a recipe for a virtuous cycle of incentives. Because at the end of the day, as consumers, we want to see a better world. And we want to interact with brands and experiences that put the sort of all stakeholder approach to the next generation economy at the forefront. Nonprofits are looking to heal our communities, to heal the planet, create, alleviation to some of the world's most pressing challenges like hunger and social justice issues. And then you've got brands who really are still in that mode of needing to build loyal customer bases. And there's a way to connect all three of those things. And we think that partnering on impact is the way to do it. So if a brand can take a portion of their budget or their philanthropic commitment, and they can create programs for their employees to engage their employees in creating better culture that has higher purpose, that is more productive, that is more profitable, that's good for them. And that will translate into happier customers who are partnering to create a better world. And the nonprofits get to be the beneficiaries of all of that, to do the hard work of solutions making. So we just see ourselves at the nexus of that triangle, and believe that's the future of an economy that is equitable, diverse, and solves problems.
Yeah, I love it. I think that you've hit the nail on the head there in a lot of respects. It's just, we do live in this ecosystem, and we have the opportunities as, for-profit, nonprofit, donors, volunteers, consumers, etc. All of those different sort of hats that we wear just as people, to advance things and to create positive impact, kind of wherever we go. And as we choose to interact with brands, we have that ability to really say, hey, here's what we want to see happen. And when brands can authentically get onto that kind of corporate social responsibility train, I think that it makes the world a better place. And it's cool that you have some tools in play that can help with that. What are some of the things in your stack that are helpful for for-profit brands?
Yeah. And maybe one thing I'd love to just kind of deal with is this idea that, there can be quite a bit of noise and even virtue signaling in the consumer landscape, right? There are trends that incentivize brands to maybe take a stand on an issue to avoid some kind of shareholder pain or reputational alleviation. We're at Goodworld, we're in the business of helping them authentically engage in the future that is better for everybody. So one example would be a very sustainable way to engage their employees, something we call payroll giving,
Mm-hmm.
which enables an individual to take a small part of every paycheck and deduct that from their paycheck, get it to a nonprofit of choice. Across an employee base, that makes a massive difference. Another thing that we offer is obviously the Roundups for employee cards. So whenever you connect a card, every time you buy a lunch, you can round up the change on that purchase. And then a big concept that we're offering brands is something we call give cards. And it occurred to me about 8 months ago that if we could take a large corporate commitment, let's say it's a $100,000 philanthropic budget, and instead of write a big check to a single nonprofit with a press release, we cut that commitment up into tiny pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And we offer it as social credits to employees and consumers. What happens when you give someone a gift and allow them to choose where the money goes is you sort of turn the cycle. You make it a give first experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if I got an email that says, "Hey, Richie, you just got here's $25 to give to the charity of your choice." After a tough year of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to mean so much more than just reading that my employer wrote a big check to a legacy institution.
Yeah,
Now I'm a part of it.
That's awesome. I like the mentality there, and it gives people not just the feeling, but the ability to actually create their own sort of change there.
Yeah. And what's really powerful about this is ultimately it's a multiplication scheme,
Mm-hmm.
because when when a big brand, or let's say even an influencer, makes a large commitment, and then they spread it across a community of people, the more people that touch the money, the more opportunities there are to add, to match, and to increase and spread those dollars.
Yeah.
So, if I dropped $100,000 on my employee base, and 2,000 people touch the money, and we nudge every person who redeems to chip in a little, you may have just turned $100,000 into 300, 500, $700,000.
Yeah, for sure. And there are a couple other things that I think are interesting. So Relish Studio, that's my business. It is we're a 1% for the Planet partner. And one of the things that I know that they have been able to do is to get people to sign on as 1% as individual donors, and then get their businesses to do a match on what they're giving. And so essentially they then double their impact. And particularly if if the business that you are with has some sort of a commitment like that, or many businesses do have kind of donation matches or charity matches, or they give for volunteer hours and things of that nature. So there is a big movement in CSR that I think you're tapping into there. I think it's fantastic. The other piece that's kind of interesting, and I don't know a ton about this, but I've read a little bit about it, is the corporations a lot of times will, they like the press that comes from giving a giant donation to a marquee nonprofit, but the amount of goodness that a small nonprofit can make with with a fraction of that money is kind of astounding. It's really amazing to see what good can happen when you do take those very, very large donations and facilitate the opportunity to break those up and give to some smaller organizations. Because a small organization doing some really solid local work can make a $10,000 donation or a $100,000 donation go a really, really, really far way. Where somebody like Amnesty International, and I'm not trying to call anybody out here, but some of those very large organizations, a $10,000 donation is kind of a drop in the bucket. So it's really cool that you're facilitating that opportunity.
We couldn't agree more, and it's about the democratization of philanthropy. It's really moving away from that kind of elitist model into a true upvote economy, right? And if big brands who have the means to make philanthropic commitments are ready to understand the philanthropic DNA of their employees and their customers in a new way, they're going to be way out ahead of their competitors, because they're going to be able to work on not only problems that the world is facing, but they're also going to create a loyal, meaning-filled community around them that's going to stick with them, over the course of decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really great. So it sounds like for-profit businesses just would need to sign up for your tool as well. Do they take advantage of the full stack, the CRM and all of those other mechanisms, or is it really focused on a few of the giving opportunities?
Yep, great question. Every partner is different, and it's why we offer a la carte technology. So in some cases, you'll have an organization that knows exactly what they want, or the specific use cases that their employees are gonna be interested in. Maybe it's peer to peer fundraising. They want to offer their employees the ability to create fundraisers and goals over the course of the year. Maybe another organization is pretty focused on just some cause marketing efforts, where they want to enable customers to make donations for a specific campaign or impact area. We have customers that will come in for just one tool. Maybe they want to plant trees on behalf of their employees and send them a end of year holiday card. Or maybe they want to run, a campaign for a special giving milestone where they give away a bunch of money and nudge their customers to take some other action or redeem some discount or promo code. So there's a whole myriad of ways you can engage with our tool set, and we really purposefully architected it for max flexibility so that different brands can engage with the tools in different ways.
Oh, that's amazing. That just sounds really incredible, and I like how flexible the systems appear to be. I haven't used the system yet, but I'm certainly going to check it out because it just seems like an incredible opportunity for both for-profits and nonprofits to really leverage the power of people's desire to give and just create more opportunity there for to drive donations and engagement.
Yeah, I'd be happy to give you a personal demo anytime, Stu, and happy to send along any resources that your listeners may be interested in, whether it's getting started, tutorials, case studies, or insights that we've come across in the space.
Oh, that's great. So what are some of the trends or some of the next things that you see popping up in the space? What's on tap for you guys?
Yeah. We're really excited about the intersection of commerce and impact. We're putting some partnerships together that are kind of leading the way on e-commerce integration, so that when you're buying a pair of sneakers, you can have the brand trigger a percentage of your purchase towards an impact area of your choice. Whether that's planting trees or providing meals or any other cause area. We're also sort of, I think we're really excited about this democratization approach. Internally we call this project G-Force because we believe that there's a more human algorithm to be achieved in this economy, that we've gotten so caught up in the incentives of the machine and kind of the mother techno utopian culture, that in too many ways capitalism is sort of pulling our strings, when we should really be putting our values forward in our everyday transactions, in how we relate to one another as professionals, colleagues, friends, and members of the same community. So I think the big grandiose project of our business and the movement we're leading is to bring humanity back into the machine. And we think there's just going to be so many opportunities to do that with the right partners and with the right leaders kind of taking control of this capitalism 2.0. And we're just excited to be meeting people who are leading that charge.
Well, I certainly think that you're spot on in terms of some of the trends that we're seeing, and the fact that I'll use Amazon again as an example, but the fact that one of the world's largest retailers has a component that allows for charitable donations through their platform, is indicative of more than insignificant shift in attitudes. And as you see more and more companies, Walmart moving toward putting solar on all of their buildings, and just an increased attention to the idea that we need to try to do a little bit more than just make money. I think that you're certainly onto something, and it's great to see how you're kind of tackling that from a tech standpoint, not only to satisfy those needs, but also to really engage with new generations that are very much aligned with that idea, or at least that's what all of the trends are demonstrating. So I think that's just fantastic.
Well, I certainly admire the conversations that you're leading, Stu, and it's an alliance of humans that are going to sort of get us back on track in terms of, a values first world. So, certainly been an honor to talk to you today. I'm sure it's the beginning of a long rapport.
Well, I hope so. So how can people find out more about what you guys are doing? What's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, well, they can go straight to our website and reach out if you're part of a nonprofit or a business that's looking to do good. Goodworldnow.com. You can sign up for free. You can get access to a whole glut of resources. If anyone wants to reach out to me directly, they're free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Richie Kendall at Goodworld on LinkedIn, or you can reach me via email and I'll respond. RICHIE at goodworld.me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I love to have these conversations and really encourage everyone out there to go and check out all of the great tools that you have developed over there. One of the things that I really have been trying to foster on the show here is the opportunity for people to take some sort of action. And it's great to have these conversations. It's awesome to kind of get inspired and think about things. But at the end of the day, if we can facilitate and get people to do something to make the world a better place after listening to the show, I'm all for that. So I like to end the show with a question. If there was one thing that you would ask the listeners to do after hearing our conversation today, what would that be?
I would beyond continuing to educate yourself on where the world is going, because it's just incredibly important to have the wherewithal to participate in a fast moving landscape. I would say encourage your workforce or your leadership, if you are mid-level, if you are leading a small organization, nonprofit or otherwise, to engage in some kind of ritualistic good. And when I say ritualistic, I mean when employee birthdays come around, make a program where you provide them with a charitable gift to go to the cause of their choice. Create time and space for volunteering. Offer perks for good community-focused work. We have to create the incentives, the time, and the space to have a stronger, more resilient American community. So I would just encourage everyone to create that space and make that intent.
Love it. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Richie. I've really had a great time talking with you, and I can't wait to see what you guys are up to next.
Me too, brother. Have a great one.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, there you have it. Another great episode of Relish This. Thanks for listening. If you would like to learn more about how to apply the audience engagement cycle to expand your organization's mission, there are two things you can do. Right now, you can go to missionuncomfortablebook.com to download a copy of my book. And while you're there, you can get your purpose-driven marketing score to see where you can unearth some gold for your organization. If you'd like to listen to back episodes of the show or sign up to be a guest, go to relishstudio.com/podcast. That's it for this week. I'll be back next week for another great episode of Relish This.